Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Ironbark Podcast. I am your host, Epion, and today we're going to talk about an emperor penguin that ended up getting very lost, very far from home, the furthest home any penguin has ever been, possibly in the entire history of penguins. Let's get into it here. Okay, so Melbourne, Australia. An emperor penguin found malnourished far from its Antarctic home on the Australian south coast is being cared for by a wildlife expert, a government department said on Monday. The adult was found November 1st on a popular tourist beach in the town of Denmark in the temperate southwest Australia. About 3,500 kilometers or 2,200 miles north of the icy waters off the Antarctic coast. According to a statement from the Western Australia State's Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions, could you imagine being involved in biodiversity, conservation, and like fucking roller coasters? I know, I'm just kidding. It probably has to do with like waterfalls and shit like that. The largest penguin species has never been reported in Australia before. University of Western Australia research fellow Belinda Cannell said, though some had reached New Zealand, nearly all of which is further south than Western Australia. Cannell is advising seabird rehabilitator Carol Bidolph, who is caring for the penguin, spraying him with chilled water mist to help him cope with the alien climate. The penguin is 1 meter, or 39 inches tall, and initially weighed 23 kilograms, or 51 pounds. A healthy male can weigh more than 45 kilograms, or 100 pounds. The department said its efforts were focused on rehabilitating the penguin. Asked if the penguin could potentially be returned to Antarctica, the department replied, options are still being worked through. They'll probably return it. They'll send it on a carnival cruise. They'll give it a first-class drive over there, and they'll drop her off in the little icy banks there, give him a little hat, keep him warm. What do you think happened with this? You think this guy just like got lost in the, was getting chased by orcas and was like, holy fuck, gotta keep swimming in this direction, and then just kept going until eventually he got caught up in some sort of current, and then he ended up in Timbuktu? Or perhaps were there some sort of international pirates or poachers going to Antarctica and they were grabbing a bunch of penguins and something happened along the way and a couple got out and this one ended up and it had no fucking clue what direction to swim in, so it just kept going. It's an interesting thought. I wonder what all the other fish thought when they saw this fucking penguin come by. I wonder if he's been eating like all kinds of like weirdo fish too, or like he just hasn't. That's why he's malnourished. It's an interesting thought. I don't know what happened to him. Well, folks, I'm going to jump into the content I've created this week, which will give me stuff to talk about regarding nature and wildlife. Okay. Let's scroll all the way back down here. Okay. So I posted a picture of a very cute and adorable marmot. This was from one of my hikes. I've talked about it plenty. They like to lick your boots because they got minerals on them after a long hike. So on November 14th, I posted about November 15th being a full moon. So I told everyone, get your cameras ready. But it's not just any full moon, it's the beaver moon, named after the beavers who build their dams or their winter dams this time of year. It's also sometimes called the frost moon and morning moon, depending on the December solstice. So I told everyone to enjoy it. This is a repost basically from me, but I have a lot of new followers from when I posted it last, so it's new for those that haven't gone arduously through my profile. And I have the Moonlight Sonata playing in that one, and it's very good. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful song. November 15th was National Recycling Day. Now, I know people criticize recycling. It's like, oh, you don't really recycle everything. Very few things get recycled, this and that. But you know what? It has its place. It's well intended. And I think if we improve recycling capabilities over time, they'll get to a place that's far more appreciated and better for like the environment and our materials. So, we can dunk on, recycling not being as effective as we once believed it was, and kind of feeling like, the carpet's been pulled out from under us, but it still has its place, and we can hope that it gets more effective as time goes on. And incidentally, or coincidentally, I should say, today, or November 15th, was also Steve Irwin Day. So I did like a little quote post here where I quote posted Robert Irwin, his son. And I just said, today is Steve Irwin Day. This man was integral to my early growth and development. He really was, like, in my formative years. If it were not for my mother putting on this type of television programming, I may have never developed a passion and interest for wildlife and conservation. And then I said, gone too soon, which he was. I think he was in his 40s when he passed away. And then my Wildlife Wednesday post was a mule deer, just kind of like a young buck feasting on some shrubs and stuff out by a river. It's a pretty good video, I think. I like it. The subject animal is very cute. He's very alert. He's got his ears up. He's got his big muley ears. Yeah, I don't know. I like this video. The river moving in the background gives a little bit of movement to the video, and then the eating and stuff like that. And it was the right amount of sunlight out to capture like a good recording of this. So I like it. I like it quite a bit. Yeah. So folks, that basically wraps up the normal on-brand content of what I'm going to talk about in this podcast. But from this point forward, I'm going to be talking about something that's a little off-brand. It's still on-brand, but it's a little more off-brand. It's not about nature, wildlife, and conservation, outdoors. This is going to be a bitch fest. This is going to be the biggest bitch fest that I've ever had on the podcast, probably in the history of the entirety of the Ironbark podcast, which has been around for years. All right? It's been around for years at this point. It's kind of depressing to think about that. It's not bigger than what it is after realizing there was kind of some hiatuses here and there because life gets very complicated. But we're back to a regular schedule of once a week uploads. Maybe I should increase the number. But the problem with that is getting guests, committing to schedules, getting guests to commit to schedules, and also having enough variety of topics to talk about that's on brand to fill an entire podcast. And usually it's hard enough just finding enough topics, subject topics regarding outdoors and wildlife for a week, let alone daily. So unless you want 3-minute episodes, which would work for YouTube, let's be honest. Okay. But now I'm just going to whine. I'm going to complain. I'm going to be a baby about content creation on X. My frustrations with it. There's a lot of positive, okay? But I'm not going to talk about the positives here. This is just going to be the negatives. Negative Nancy. I'm getting negative Nancy up in this, okay? And the reason I am is because I feel like it makes me feel better when I complain about it. And I also feel the Ironbark podcast is a safe space to discuss this stuff without getting a bunch of other creators upset or pissy with me or because I'm not going to call anyone out directly. I'm not going to say anyone's name or blah, 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 but I'm just going to kind of speak broadly. And when I do this, it's just kind of saying this is how I feel about it. I could be wrong. I could be very wrong, but I'll tell you, and then you can tell me. You can drop a comment. And the reason I think this is a safe space is because none of these people are going to listen to this. That's the other kick. It's just going to be you guys that listen to this. So my biggest gripe is that the amount of effort that goes into the content I create versus the amount of effort that goes into the content others create and how theirs is much more rewarded and much more significant than mine. So let me paint it out for you. I have to acquire camera equipment, most of which, if you're into photography, is quite expensive. You got tripods, all different types of cameras. On top of that, all kinds of different lenses. The list goes on. You can go into editing programs. You can get into SD cards. It's nonstop. It's nonstop. And if you really want to get crazy, you can get into drones. You can get. astrophotography and get the telescopes, all that kind of stuff. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. All the attachments, all that stuff. Now, that's quite a bit of money. That's quite a bit of investment, but it's also a hobby, so it's kind of like not either here or there. But nonetheless, that's step one. Step two, now this is also part of my hobby, so it's neither here nor there, but just to paint a giant picture, is now I do have to go travel into the mountains. I need to do my hikes, commit my time, energy, which takes me away from the internet, from X, because it's a remote area that doesn't have internet access. And sometimes I do get lucky, I see animals. Sometimes I do not get lucky, and I don't see animals. If I see animals, I can have content. If I don't, I don't. And I'm not going to resort to unethical means. Never. I wouldn't be able to live with myself, let alone you guys letting me know you ain't supposed to be fucking doing that. So we'll leave it at that. But so you do that, all that time and effort, get it, and then when you see an animal, being in the right position, not being too close, not being too far, being able to set up in a safe, decent spot, weather, terrain, footing, like all this stuff factors in. It's difficult. It's hard. It is not easy. It is a time sink. You see people sitting out there in like hunter blinds, like waiting for an animal to come by, and they just waste their entire fucking day in a tent without internet, doing God knows what, passing their time, just lying and waiting. Patience is a virtue. Then let's say you get that footage, you take it home, you edit it, put it through a bunch of stuff, clip it up, add some music, maybe a voiceover, some pictures, whatever you want to do for your editing. People get crazy with it, right? They do massive things. Then you upload it. You upload it to X. You get a handful of likes. You get a handful of views. Like the one I'm looking at right now, that's on my pinned. It hasn't been up for a week. We got about 557 views, 11 likes. Like people are just like, I'm not going to like this video of a deer. Like I'm just not going to like it. Like, okay, it's got 2 like shares and then it's got 6 comments. If I see something that is not politically divisive, that is not like, I don't know how to say it, like that a group of people aren't going to be against, and it has 500 views but 11 likes, that's either a lot of bot interactions or content creators are fucking pricks. So when you pin something to your profile, it gets shown to all your followers. A large portion of my followers are the verified ones or other content creators. So I know for a fact that at some point this reasonably likely came into their purview on their feed and they made a conscious effort not to like it. And that's a simple click of a button. And I know when I'm going through the feed, I like everybody's. I just hit the like. It's like boop, boop, boop. As I scroll, I boop, 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 boop. I have a suspicion that some of these creators are, they're like begrudgingly against people who make quality content or higher quality content than themselves and don't want to recognize it. They don't want to see other people put in effort and be successful, because then that would require them to then put in effort in order to be successful. And most of these people don't put in any fucking effort. They don't. They just don't. Now I can go to like a handful of these other creators' profiles. They'll have some like stupid ass engagement baiting question. That's like, and this is like the cliche one, but there's plenty of examples. Do you like pineapple on your pizza? Do you like pineapple on your pizza? Good morning, everyone. Say good morning back if it's a good morning. Hey, everyone. What color do you think the sky is? Blue or blue? Like, and there's just like all these like stupid ass questions. And then they get 100,000 replies because it's not even like people, and I look at them. It's not even like people that are fans of the content. It's other content creators in on this little circle jerk where it's like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, and we're just like everybody's stuff, but it doesn't really happen that way. It's like the guys with the most followers kind of get the most likes and comments, and then the guys with less just try to get a little bit out of that. And it's this post that they made took less than 5 seconds to type. It took no thought or effort. They do it all the time. It's repetitive. Like, they basically just post the same thing. Like, on the first every month, you could like go back and be like, oh, on the first every month, they ask about pizza. On the second, they ask, like, what's the best kind of soup? And then the next, they say, what's your favorite kind of muffin? And it's just rinse and repeat. And it's like, it gets like thousands of views, and it gets fucking thousands of comments, hundreds. And it's like, the return on effort doesn't have like a fair exchange. It's low quality garbage gets the highest yield in return, while things of effort get like pushed down. And that's what's frustrating about it, because I'm trying to do good stuff. I'm trying to I do like one post a day. I try to make it meaningful, a couple paragraphs, maybe a picture, maybe a video. I even put the podcast up there, but no one even interacts with the fucking podcast on X. I get way more interactions on Spotify than I do from fucking X. And I don't even have like fellow content creators on Spotify following me. That's why it's frustrating, because it's like, it seems there's a culture, there's an attitude on X. And it's like, don't show effort because you're going to have to make me do effort. And I want the accolades without the work. And that's what most of these people are. And then when you criticize them, they get their backs up against, go, whoa. And it's like, don't get your back up the wall for like, just like kind of own it and just be like, yeah, it is what it is. And there are people that are like that, and they're kind of cool as shit. They're kind of just like, I'm making money. I think it's fucking stupid too. And like everything I'm saying right now, they'll be like, yeah, I agree with you. But also like, that's what works. So that's what makes money. And they're fucking right. They're right. And I don't know how you fix this, because to some extent it's a platform issue, but to another extent, it's like a community online culture issue as well. And until that changes, and I don't even think you can really change it, because there's so many people online, there will always be like segments that will participate in these types of things. If it's like, you could have a segment that's of the opinion of me, and it's like, this shit should be cut out because it's bad for the overall platform. Like when you go through the feed, like Elon talks about this all the time. You don't want to doom scroll through Instagram because it's wasted user minutes or regretted user minutes. Well, bro, like, I hate to break it to you, but X, being a bunch of one-liner questions for engagement farming, every time I read one of those fucking posts, that's a regretted user minute. It's a fucking regret. It's like, my life would have been better reading a joke, a good meme, relevant topic news. And you do get some of this stuff in the feed, but sometimes it's dominated. And I don't even like it. So I'm like, how does the algorithm getting in on this? I try not to stay on it. Like I try to like curate my algorithm not to incorporate this thing, but I'm just following so many other content creators. I think that's just the issue, is that their garbage ends up in my feed. And I don't know, like, so that's the frustrating part of it. The other thing is like, there's like a lot of phony ass people. They go on spaces. They're like, yeah, follow me. Like, yeah, dude, like we'll follow you back. Like we'll make this work together. This and blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah. First of all, they only host their own spaces and they never join anyone else's spaces. They don't help fucking anybody. They don't do shit. They don't comment on your shit. They barely ever do. It's a top-down fucking pyramid, MLM fucking scheme, multi-level marketing scheme. And these people, man, they like, if you listen to them long enough, they kind of just sound like slime balls. They kind of sound like slime balls. Like all they do is talk about like substance abuse, like drugs, and like, dude, weed, LOL, awesome. And it's like, what the fuck? And like they're sitting there talking about like, yeah, like I don't even make content. I just sort of like bullshit and people subscribe to me, man. Like I'm making like a few $100 now. I got a few hundred subscribers. And it's like, for all these people fucking know, these people are like heinous people, like they could have created like heinous crimes, like because I'm at the point now where I'm like, I think verification or subscription, like my subscriptions aren't even approved, but these fucking guys are. I'm at the point now where I think to have subscriptions approved, there should be like a criminal record check, because you could be funding the pockets of some of the worst people imaginable. Take it to the limit of whatever you could think of being the worst type of person. There's nothing really stopping them from breaching that threshold of just getting monetized on X and getting subscriptions approved. There's nothing really stopping them, right? It doesn't ask you. They don't know who you are. I mean, you could have a criminal record, but they're not privy to that. So it's just kind of like all these people like funding these people on like some sort of like, I don't know, it's almost like a dude bro, like, oh, it's funny. Like maybe consider this user safety. Like how much you want these people to know about you, how much you want to fund them, and how much is that money now going towards maybe bad things that you wouldn't support off platform. You don't really know who you're following. You don't know who you're subscribing to. They're even anonymous accounts. Some of them don't even show their faces. And you're fucking giving them $5 a month. Like, are you all there? Like, are you fucking there? Like, I get supporting other creators, but these guys aren't even creators. They're fucking scammers. They're fucking scamming, bruh. They're fucking... You've probably seen it. And I don't want to get too specific because obviously a lot of this is sort of like... It could apply to whoever the fuck you're thinking about, and I may not even be talking about them. And maybe I am talking about them and I'm incorrect. So this is also preventing me from getting sued. If I don't say it about anyone specifically, and don't mention anything super specific, there's a bunch of fake ass creators too. They'll be like into nature and stuff, but like all their photos will be stolen from the internet. And it's super easy to check. All you have to do is like, it's like search Google for more images, like, and like it pops up. It's like on an image share site. It's so ridiculous. And like they're the bigger creator than me. They're like a bigger nature creator because they steal like, and some of them are ass. Like their content's like completely ass. Like they don't know anything about like nature. And it's just like they just walk around their backyard like taking pictures of whatever's on the lawn basically. It's super frustrating. And that's why I'm just like, it's all about like, they're like, oh, it's about community and this and that and blah, 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 talking in spaces. It's like, it's not a community. No one in there even likes your content. They don't like nature. None of these people are supporting you because they're fans. They're supporting you because they're trying to ride the coattails of the content creation. They're trying to gain followers. They're trying to ride your fame. But there's no fame. It's just, there's a difference between content creators following each other out of mutual respect and trying to help them achieve their dream. And then there's people who follow that creator because they don't create, but they appreciate the content. And they're genuinely, like you guys listening to me right now, like you guys are genuinely sort of like a supporter or fan of the podcast or the content. You don't expect any sort of like, I don't know, for me to prop you up because you don't do anything. You do things. You just don't do anything in terms of content creation online. And it's just like, I don't know, these people, it's like, it's like the main character syndrome for all of them. And to be perfectly clear, some of this even applies to me. It's just like a character trait for people that create online. It's a certain personality type. So don't get offended. I'm not an angel. I'm not perfect either. I'm not holier than thou. I'm not on a high horse. But let's just get it all out there, okay? Some people think they're the fucking main character. And that all these other creators out here ain't shit, ain't doing shit, ain't gonna be shit. So they treat them like that. I try to treat everyone very nice. I try to like everybody's stuff. But other people, not so much. They're not like that. They don't do that. It's frustrating, you know? And you see sort of like these like engagement little scams and schemes. Like it's brutal. It's absolutely fucking brutal. Like they'll complain about fake things that get engagement, like fake enrage. Like they'll be like, oh, I can't believe I hit 10,000 followers, but really they haven't. But they want you to click on their profile to check. Like that's a scam. Like that's the engagement scheme. They'll do the same about complaining about getting community noted. So then you scroll through their profile to check for their community notes. Like there's all these like really elaborate, and I think it's not scummy because they talked about it in spaces with like the other people who do this shit, and they're like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if I posted that as a thing right now? And it's like, oh, now like because it's like on like a audio record, it's like somehow not like kind of scummy, but like it is, because like there's 15 people in that fucking space, maybe like 40 at max, and you're getting like hundreds of comments. So obviously like hundreds of those people don't know that it's like an inside joke, and you're actually manipulating people. And here's the thing that I hate about engagement farming. You're literally kind of just manipulating people for like a buck. You're not sincere, not being authentic. It's fake. You're just doing it because it works. Like you don't have any branding or content behind it. It's just super, like, first of all, when you ask like a question, you're sort of taking advantage of people's, they want to help. So they see a question like, do you like pineapple on pizza or anything like that? They'll be like, oh, I want to help contribute to the consensus of this guy's data collection. I'm going to say my opinion and it'll help form thoughts. And then they reply. And then you have, so it's just like this impulsive response of humans. It's just like, I'm just going to take advantage of the impulsive response nature of people. And then this question works. Okay, this one doesn't. This question works. I'm going to post that. And then I'm going to get money out of it. Now, they say with the new creator ad revenue, they're going to get rid of this. It's going to come down to like authentic engagement. But how do you really distinguish authentic engagement from unauthentic engagement? And I'm hoping, and I am praying that the algorithm that decides this measures the length of a post and determines whether or not that's engagement farming or not. If not the length, then like sort of like the inherent question and nature of it. Because some people, what I find, are still doing the engagement question, but then maybe like a couple parcel, like other additional sentences. And I think that's just to dodge the algorithmic pickup of the engagement farming question. So they are making it a little bit more elaborate, but it's all in an effort to dodge the censor thing for the algorithm. Now, what I find to be another part of this to be kind of frustrating is that some of these creators or these guys that are very into manipulating the algorithm or manipulating the interactions or, you know, the views that you can get. Instead of just creating good content, it's like, how can I maximize my return on the algorithm? So what they do is they befriend certain people who have insider knowledge, and then those people will disclose some of that information. Now, it might be, I don't know if it's company private or not. It probably isn't. But it gives them a little bit more of an advantage than all the rest of the users. Is that fair? I don't think so. I think that sort of information should be posted as public knowledge so people from all squares of X can use that to their advantage if they so choose. Instead of having to subscribe to a guy for $5 a month to get all these little privy little tidbits of information. Now you're basically paywalling it through someone that's not even involved with the platform. It gets really fucking sticky there, man. Because now you start looking at like, all right, like, what's going on here? Like, I know at other jobs that would be super fucking frowned upon, but I digress. Anyway, I think that's basically all my venting out. It's super frustrating, man. Like, I try hosting like a nature space, like nobody will join. And someone else will like host a nature space, but they don't actually have an interest in nature. What they're actually interested in is the engagement from it. So all they'll talk about is like analytics and engagement. It's like, this is no different from like any of the other creator fucking spaces. Anyway, folks, fuck. I bitch way too much, but I promised you that's what it was going to be, and you got it. It reminds me of that Jerry Seinfeld episode where it's like George Costanza's dad, it's like he celebrates a Festivus for the rest of us. I'm going to air a list of grievances. It's a Festivus for the rest of us.